Hello again, I am Blunty. This monster rig built around an Intel Core i9-7980XE is as yet unnamed because I'm recording this before the build video I did about it goes live, and in that build video I asked you guys for names for it. So for now, I'll just call it the silly name that I gave it, Frosty the Core Man. And of course, thank you to Intel who have sponsored this video and of course the build video. They supplied the Core i9-7980XE that I'm using to show you this stuff. But this video isn't about the rig. Well, it is, but this is about what the rig does. This is about how the rig makes your life better. This video is why i9. You've got a lot of choices. You've got the i5s, the i7s, great CPUs, very, very useful. I've used them in many rigs myself over the years. But the i9 is something special. So why i9? As I talked about in the build video for the system, one of the central attractions of the Intel Core i9-7980XE Extreme Edition CPU, what a long name, is the massively multi-core nature of the thing. 18 CPU cores, as opposed to the 4 and now 6 core setups common on the lower end of the Intel Core CPU family. And with Intel's hyperthreading, that spins out to 36 threads, which means each one of those cores can do multiple things concurrently. So what we have, in the simplest explanation of it, is quite a lot of side-by-side paths for data to churn through and be processed. It also has a significantly larger onboard cache memory, so it can hold much more of whatever it has to process next instead of waiting for the rest of the system to send it through when it's ready. And all of that means is a significant amount of separate workloads can all be happening at once without heavily competing for the CPU resources and slowing each other down in ways that will harm your experience of using the rig on the other side of the screen. This is beneficial to a lot of different workloads. In my case, and I suspect a large number of you folk will be watching this, it's likely the most useful thing about this ability is to play a video game while streaming it to YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or whatever, while also recording your gameplay so you can edit it together for stuff like highlight clips. And you can have such an edit rendering in the background, perhaps even compressing a video project ready for uploading. And that is the workload I wanted to demo here to show you why i9. I'll start by using the Final Fantasy XV PC benchmark tool. It's a new, good-looking and demanding game, and the benchmark tool will let me get super-duper consistent tests for comparison's sake. So, just all on its own, in a high-quality setting, 1080p, in a high-quality setting 1080p test, the system pulls out a score of just under 7600, which is right in line with where it should be, with a GTX 1070 Ti on board. The brutal i9 CPU here, of course, not being any kind of bottleneck to slow anything else down. So next, we run the benchmark again, this time running OBS to encode the gameplay to a 1080p 60 frames per second, 6000 kilobits a second stream, which is the maximum bitrate a service like Twitch supports, and what I personally use when I stream, and we'll record it all to disk. In fact, I'm recording it twice, because not only am I using OBS to record the scene for the demo, but I'm also using the same machine to screen cap itself so I can show it to you what I'm doing. Also worth pointing out, all of these tests I've put OBS into a medium video encode setting. The default setting is the very fast setting, and this default puts only a mild load on the CPU. It's usually a safe bet for most users regardless of what hardware they're using, but it can generate a stream and recording with some relatively mild but undesirable video artifacting, like macro blocking and quite ugly smearing of fine details. And although there are even higher settings than medium, which put even more strain on the CPU, and which we could probably get away with using here frankly, in my own testing medium is the sweet spot before you get into the territory of diminishing returns. Any higher than this and the benefits to video quality are much harder to spot, so the CPU load is increased for no real decent payoff at the end of the day. So we stick with medium. I've also got CPU ID hardware monitor up there so you can see the individual loads spread across all of the CPU threads. All of this extra CPU time that OBS wants to do what it does bring the score down to 6800, which is of course just below a standard score for an unfettered system, but that's a difference you'll frankly never even feel in the gameplay itself. But yeah, okay, fine. So far, that's not much more impressive than what the new i7s can keep up with if you're a bit clever in your configuration. This is easy, this is common. Let me show you why i9. What I've got going on here is the benchmark in high 1080p OBS with medium preset stream encoding at 1080p 60 frames per second at the maximum bitrate for Twitch, and I've got Handbrake compressing a 10-minute 1080p 60 FPS video into a YouTube-friendly 1080p 30 frames per second file. Which, by the way, it is doing at about 110 FPS, so more than double real time for that video processing. All of this intensive stuff at the same time and without any extra configuration, without any tricks, without any selective load management, like giving only certain CPU cores work from certain applications, which, by the way, is a neat trick that you can use to indeed help make workflows like this even more efficient. But I haven't bothered. This is just out of the box. Let the system handle the load spreading. See what happens. And at the end of all of that, a score of 67-68. Only a hair below what the OBS-only workflow looked like. And it's that I wanted to show you. You can stream, record, have an edit rendering and a video compressing all at the same time, which can and will save you huge amounts of time. And I do say this as someone who has been doing this stuff for many, many years and knows well the time it takes to do all this stuff in its own time, one at a time, on a system that just couldn't handle everything at once. And this is why I love the heavy multi-threaded stuff like the Intel Core i9-7980XE Extreme Edition. Sure, you can score some bragging rights for having a brutal rig, but mostly it's about the whole time is money thing. Your time is worth something, so getting a bunch of stuff done all at the same time is a huge value. So while beasties like the i9-7980XE aren't what you'd call bargain priced, let's be frank, they are absolutely an investment that can be worth it over time as they save you a big fat pile of your own time. Time you can spend being even more productive if you like, or time you can spend not working. Time you can spend with friends or family. Or if you're a grouchy misanthrope like me, you can just spend that time watching cartoons and drinking a nice cold beer and chilling like a friggin' boss. Know what I mean? Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.